Life is constantly spiraling, constantly moving. There's never a point in time where life stands still. All the way from the spiraling, unfolding galaxies, through the spiraling planets, down through into the spiraling vortices of water that bring life and nourishment to this planet, all the way down into the DNA, the very blueprint of who we are as human beings. We see this spiral spiraling through protein chains, which bring together collagen, which actually create us and hold us together as human beings. And this spiral has been expressed since prehistory, since the dawn of time, as some of the first symbolic representations of life. As we can see here, the expression of these spirals carved into rocks, so inspirational to early cultures that they would spend days, weeks, maybe even months carving and expressing these forms as divine, sacred expressions of the ever-unfolding, ever-moving life. The spiraling galaxies, opening, unfolding, expressing the very nature of the macrocosm of the universe. And all the spirals have a deep, powerful nucleus, a deep center of energy, like a center of culture or a center of an idea or a center of movement. And the very energy that's produced within the center throws its way out into ever-expressing, ever-opening forms of the expression of its life. All the way through into the DNA helix. This DNA, the very blueprint of who we are as human beings, of how we grow, how we unfold, the very genetics of life, expressed in the microcosm, seen in the macrocosm of the galaxies and the universes, all the way through into the areas that we can't even see, into the microcosmic formula, the very blueprint of our life. We can see expressed here in the embryo, the Fibonacci sequence, the perfect spiral which is expressed through life. So we can take the symbolic form of the golden mean, which is a golden ratio, the very sacred foundations of mathematics that we can see expressed through the universe. And when applied over almost any form, we see how directly this form expresses itself, not just as galaxies and DNA, but as the blueprint of the form of how we grow, how we move, how we express ourselves. All the way into nature, this unfolding fern, moving up towards the sky, moving up towards the sun. This nucleus of energy held in the center, ready to be released into growth, into bloom, into flowering, into seed, and then to pass that seed on into the next generation of its plants. You see this expression through cultures, through religions. This is the Orphic Egg, the giant egg, the cosmic egg of the universe. And here we see the snake unfolding 3.5 turns, expressed through this primal energy which is being birthed forth into transcendence and evolution. Very old, deep, European, mystical, esoteric understandings. But we see this also expressed in the deep expressions of Hinduism, of the Shiva Lingam, of the Kundalini snake rising up, expressed through, again, transcendence and evolution. This divine energy, the Shakti, held within the universe, that's opening and folding and dancing its interplay into every moment. The water vortices, these natural vortices of energy which form even when we take open the plug and the water moves down through the plug hole. Interesting to see that depending on which side of the hemisphere you're on, the water will move in different directions depending on this electromagnetic pull down to the very core, the very nucleus of the planet. And these are the same as the water vortices which move through our bodies. We are roughly 70% water, so we are affected by these cyclical movements, these formulas, by the moon, by the tide, by our own emotions. Here we see fascia, nice juicy fascia, which is the makeup of our bodies. It's what glues us together. There's very healthy fascia here. We can see this moisture in the fascia. And when we see healthy fascia, we see the liquids, the water, which holds the collagen fibers together, keeps them juicy, keeps them with this beautiful way of being able to move through the tissues, keeping our movement vibrant and dynamic. We see that the very nature of what creates fascia is collagen. And when we break down the collagen, we see that collagen is three proteins which are spiraling together. As they spiral together, they create a strength that can be as strong as a steel cable. And these steel cables are what hold us together, what glue our organs in place, what holds our joints together, what gives us strength and dynamism in the physical body. When we glue together, we see the very structure of our physical bodies. These spiral vortices which hold together our bones and our organs and our skin and our tissues. When we overlay the golden mean, the spirals of life, we see how we fit into this spiral. We start to understand this blueprint. It's not just seen through the spiral arm galaxies and the water vortices, but it's actually the underlying blueprint to all movement, all expression, all life. Even movements, we see there's a vortice of energy, the movement of the head, the movement of the neck. So the very core of movement, when it's expressed to its fullest, so when you move from a center, so this is the understanding of the dynamic of a spiral. When we move from a core center, our center, or the center here of the head, and we move directly, we create this vortice of energy like a spiral arm galaxy, throwing its energy out, expressing itself, expressing its movement. So all movement can be broken down into forms of spiral. As we move from the center of the shoulder, as we align ourselves to a movement of the arm, this spiral dance movement, we see that the center of the shoulder can become a nucleus, or the center of the belly, or the center of the chest, depending on where we're moving from. We start to align ourselves with this dynamic, this very sacred sense of movement aligned with the universe, with the very blueprint of the universe. Here we see this wonderful slide, and this is the heart. This is actually all the fascia of the heart. So when all the living cells are taken out of the heart, we are left with the collagen fibers. Remembering the slide we saw a minute ago, and all the collagen fibers, they are expressed in this helix of collagen. And now with modern research, we can actually see that the heart is not seen just to move in and out and pump, but the heart actually expresses itself through the dynamism of a spiral movement. So when we see the heart in motion, it's no longer a pump, but it's like the spiral arm galaxy. It's actually unfolding, folding inwards like a vortice of energy. When it moves inwards, when it spirals to its center, it creates an energetic vortice, which then allows it to pump its way out, sending its blood flow out to the periphery of the body. So when we again align ourselves to the spiral movement, we're aligning ourselves to the blood flow, the expression of the blood coming back to the heart, reoxygenating itself through the lungs, and then moving its way back out to the periphery, ready to spiral back into the center. Once we were thought to move our way through the hemispheres, through the galaxy, all the planets were just moving around the sun in a helical motion. Now we can understand, as we plot these movements through mathematics, that actually the sun is spiraling out from the galaxy. All the planets are in this beautiful spiral motion. So we're already in this dynamic movement, which is where the spirals of water come from, where the spirals of collagen. We are in this holographic projection. We see the spirals expressed not just through the DNA, but also movements through the large intestine, through the tissues of the body, how we coil and spiral through the expression of the movement of the body, how the umbilicus comes in and spirals to give the embryo nutrition, and through the movements and the shapes that are created within the brain and organs like the large intestine and the small intestines, the very source of our nutrition, the very source of our digestion, not just of food but of life. With Tom Mayer's myofascial meridians, we see the spiral line of the body expressed in fascia for all our spiraling, reaching, stretching motions, built through the collagen fibers to give us this integrity to be able to move in spiral forms. Within Qigong, within the energy arts, we create spiral vortices within the body that build large amounts of energy within the body. So we root ourselves into the earth, we connect our crowns up to the heaven, and then we open these vortices of energy which charge the body with this deep sense of energetic connection, realigning ourselves to the sacred geometry of the universe. From the Samkhya philosophy, which is the basis of Ayurvedic medicine, we have Purusha. Purusha, which is the pure energetic source. From Qigong, we express it as Wuji, as Ein Sof, as the grand, infinite, pure sea of energy. From here, the pure sea of energy in Purusha, form takes place, which is Prakriti. So Prakriti can be seen as the 5 elements which move into creating life, one of the elements being earth, which then is the formation of tissues, it's the formation of fascia. From the formation, we dissolve back into the pure infinite. From the pure infinite, we move back into Prakriti. So we move from this spiral of life into life, dissolving back into the source. From the source, we become reborn again. And this leads into the science of Kundalini, of raising sexual energy, of raising this life energy, this potency of life to create, to express itself, to procreate, not just through acts of procreation of children, but through procreation of ideas, of procreation of arts, of procreation of communication, of expressions of who we are in this lifetime, of who we can be in this lifetime, and how we can evolve healthily in this lifetime. Through the chakras and the Kundalini rising, the very evolution of through the spine, through the energy centers, which are also vortices of energy. So each of the chakras is a vortice of a spiral energy. And these spiral energies spiral together and open up. And as the spiral vortices open, we evolve as human beings. We evolve on this planet in alignment with the organic evolution of the evolvement of nature, up through to where we reach cosmic consciousness and transcendence to understand this very blueprint. We don't need to study this blueprint, we don't need to see this blueprint, because we already are this blueprint. So we dissolve any sense of separation into the divine cosmic. And we see from the very formations of life, our very first movement, as we leave as a fetus, we grow into a child, our very first physical movements is within a spiral motion. So our first motions from being inside the womb into this outside world is expressed in a twist, in a spiral motion of the flexion and the extension of the spine and the spiral motions. So when we express certain motions from yoga, from movement, from Qigong, when we're making these extension, expression, spiraling, twisting movements. We're actually moving in a way that we were designed to move from our earliest formulation of movement. We can see this expression, first movements of a baby. The first movements of a baby learning to crawl are expressed in the spiral arm galaxies. You can see this central nucleus of energy as the baby understands naturally its own dynamism to be able to move, to be able to express itself. So we can see it's the most natural form of movement. We don't have to learn it. We just are it already as we express ourselves through the dynamism, the sacred geometry of life. And then this sacred geometry, this sacred dynamism is expressed in cultures through the Balinese dancing. You see the spiral movements of the hands, all the meridians of Chinese medicine being opened and expressed, all the fascial tissues being expressed all the way through to the heart. So it becomes a heart opening, body opening, energizing, life connecting experience when we align ourselves with the spirals of nature. Through to the shamanic dances, even before we were able to write or express religious, spiritual practices, we were dancing around fires, celebrating life, moving around the fire as a group, as a whole, in a spiral dynamic motion, and then finding these personal spirals with our own body. And when we open up with these spirals, we connect these spirals in a group, beyond words, into this dynamic connection that naturally unfolds. And you see these rituals expressed now on the planet still, where people join together, giant expressions of spirals, aligning ourselves in spirals. And when we realign ourselves in spirals, we become into the ritual, the creativity, the expression, not just on canvas, not just through sculpture or carving, but as a human expression of the art of life. Down to the very formula where we see our own individual blueprint expressed in the tips of our fingers, our unique identity. No two fingerprints are the same, but still the spiral being expressed as part of our unique identity, as each shell is different. Each expression of this perfect spiral, this perfect sacred geometry of life, expressed through individual connections, connected to a giant whole where there is no separation. A celebration from the spiral arm galaxies, through weather patterns, through patterns of smoke, patterns of clouds, into the very textures that create life, that create animals, that create these beautiful ammonite shells trapped in rock from thousands of years ago. So let's express, let's celebrate, let's move, let's align ourselves to these sacred spirals. Let's be this laboratory of sacred celebration and understand what it is to be in this alignment with the sacred geometry of life and the universe.